Tom McCauley.
In case you were wondering, Cedar Falls, in case you were wondering, you might not be wondering, but in case you were wondering, and I don't care if you were wondering or not because it's my opening joke and I can't really do anything about it if you aren't. But in case you're wondering, no, I do not teach painting landscapes on television during the 1980s. Please stop asking. I'm glad you got that because I used to teach creative writing at the University of Massachusetts and I opened up every semester with that joke and my students, they never got the reference. They were like, what's television? I'm like, it's a punk band from the 70s, idiots. So, a little bit about myself. I'm Tom McCauley. I'm a writer. I've been working on this book for like 2 years, and it's going very poorly because every time I sit down to write, I start getting plagued by questions, like the big questions in life, you know, like the big existential questions that you have that everyone has about life and the universe, the big questions, like, does Robocop have a dick? You know, the big questions, the big concerns. And if Robocop does have a dick, can the dick come? You know, the big questions that we all have, that we all ask ourselves. Is it human cum? The big questions. And if it is human cum, how do they get it in there? Because obviously the robot can't make the cum. The big questions, you know. Is there like a paid member of the Detroit Police Department whose job it is to keep Robocop's dick stuffed with cum? Or is that more like a volunteer position? Can I volunteer? Where do I sign up? Is there like a sheet at church or something? Let's get real. Obviously, Robocop does not cum human cum. It's not cost effective. The taxpayers would never stand for that. No, Robocop comes Robocum, I've decided. And but what is Robocum? Is it like just a bunch of computer chips and circuitry? Or like a stream of ones and zeros? Is it a bunch of little tiny Robocops that grow to full size when it rains? The big questions. Yeah. See, the punchline... Yeah. See, the punchline to that is I call myself a writer, but I'm not going to finish a book. I keep thinking about law enforcement issues. I wonder if Robocop ever wrote a book. So I've been hanging out with this Dominatrix lately. I haven't been paying her to pee on me or anything. Like, I'm not into that. Unless you're into that, and then I am too. But if you're not, then I'm not. But I was hanging out with this Dominatrix, and we were driving around in her car, just sort of trading good, because we're friends. I'm not paying her. Just to be clear, she does pee on people for money, but not me, because we're just friends. I'm allowed to have friends, okay? Anyway, we're driving around, trading good-natured insults. She calls me a pussy. I called her a bitch. And she called me a scoundrel. I called her a scumbag. She called me a pretentious stand-up comedian. I called her a disgrace to the American sex worker. And then she took things over the top. She pointed at me and said, "You're an ugly little girl." And I was offended by that. I was offended by how much that turned me on. Because until that moment, I thought, oh, I'm just a normal guy with a basket full of male pronouns that I wear in my hair, like wildflowers. But no, I had to do some serious... It was the kind of thinking that I imagine one has to do when they realize that they like to be called daddy in bed. I don't like to be called daddy in bed. I'm not into that, by the way. Unless you're into it, and then I am too. But if you're not, then I am not. I think that the most interesting orgasm would be to have the next person I sleep with call me both daddy and ugly little girl in the same sentence. Is Daddy baby's ugly little girl? Yes, Daddy, you're the ugliest little girl. Don't act like that's weird. It's normal. I know, I'm a bad boy, what can I say? I'm a real bad boy. You know the bad boys they have nowadays? With their small town cynicism and their leather jackets? Yeah, bad boys. I decided to become a bad boy because I realized I needed a new dating persona. Because guy who wears t-shirts with pictures of birds on them wasn't exactly bringing in the ladies. And by ladies, I mean birds, which is a sexist term for ladies. But I didn't know how to become a bad boy because they don't just teach you how to be a bad boy in school. You know, you gotta like research that on your own time. So what I did was I Googled facts about birds because I'm a procrastinator. And after like 30 minutes of reading about owls and the yellow-throated warblers, I Googled bad boy facts, and then I started getting somewhere. And I came up with this 10-point plan on how anybody can be a bad boy. And I'm gonna share that with you right now because I feel like the way you're looking at me, some of you need help in becoming bad boys to improve your own dating lives. So this is, by the way, this is part of the joke, the note card. I did this in New York City and people were like, learn your jokes, idiot. New Yorkers are stupid. How to be a bad boy. Bad boy spelled B-A-D-D-B-O-I, all lowercase, like on the internet. 1, buy a motorcycle. 2, learn how to ride a motorcycle. 3, invite a 19-year-old girl to sit on your motorcycle. 4, terrorize a local shopkeep. 5, set up an offshore tax shelter to flout the social contract. 6, get a cute tattoo. These are things bad boys like. 7, never say I love you. 8, steal a potato sack, fill it full of doorknobs, beat some squares with it. 9, just skip church. 10, be yourself and smoke cigarettes. Yeah. Thank you. But I'm not just a bad boy. I'm also a real nice guy. And I don't mean fake nice guy like Matt Damon, but real nice guy, like Jesus, but a little nicer than that. For instance, I have this friend, and it doesn't matter what her name is or how much money she makes. It's not important to the joke. But she was going through a divorce, and she was having a rough time. And so I decided to comfort her by way of analogy. I said, look, whatever your name is, sorry I never learned it. You are like ice cream. And everyone else in the world, your friends, your family, your ex-husband, they're like toppings. You know, they're sprinkles, they're chopped nuts, they're bananas. Toppings, when paired with ice cream, make the experience of ice cream more fun. But even if all those toppings went away, you're still ice cream. Cold, emotionless, vanilla, unstable at room temperature. You taste good, but people shouldn't have you every day or they'll die early. So I mentioned that I was a teacher. I really enjoyed being a teacher. I really liked especially insidiously inflicting my hyper-progressive worldviews on the unsuspecting minds of the next generation, and semicolons. There's a semicolon in that sentence. Probably. I didn't look it up. But it wasn't always great. Sometimes the kids they'd let you down, you know, they'd skip class or they wouldn't do their work, or they'd call you mom. It's like, no, it's Tom. College students, I mean, come on. But you got to go easy on these kids because they're just teenagers. You know, you were all teenagers. You know what it's like to be a teen. You know, with their leather jackets and their skateboards and their mini malls and their alligator shoes and their first dates and their piano lessons and they're things teenagers like. They're ant farms. They're discount zoo memberships. They're field trips to the apple orchard. They're aquariums. They're fake British accents. Dave Grohl. Their summer lifeguarding duties. Their Audrey Hepburn movies. Their Audrey Hepburn picture hats. Audrey Hepburn. Their 1,000-mile journeys by canoe down the Mississippi River. Their Spanish influenza of the year 1918. And they're fighting and dying in the American Civil War. Teenagers. They think they're so cool and so smart and so independent, but if even one of their best friends commits suicide, they're not so cool anymore. See, I'm glad that never gets the laughter that it deserves. Because it confirms to me what my grandmother told me when I was 8 years old. She said, "Tom, you are the antithesis of humankind." And I said, "Grandma, I don't know what that word means because I've never read the 19th century German philosopher George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel before." She said, "And that's why you'll never be as good as your brother." And I said, "I'm an only child." She said, "I know." Anyway, it's been real fun up here tonight, but I want to close on kind of a down note because that's the nature of comedy. You probably, I don't know if you heard, you might have heard today that that Vanilla Ice died. Probably. I didn't look it up. All right, thank you everybody. Let's give it up for And How coming up next.